Liberals hate Trump more than they love their country. Rob Finnerty. I like this guy. I watched a couple of videos with him, and yeah, we have very similar opinions.
Who gave the Democrat response to the president's address last week? The woman that we're told is a rising star in the party apparently thinks that the 77 million Americans who voted for Donald Trump are idiots, morons, or imbeciles because their brains haven't fully formed yet. And I use those words deliberately.
Their brains haven't fully formed yet. And yet you came up with the questionnaire during Biden's administration, which was Democratic Party in power, right? The questionnaire asking about the newborns, if they are gay, lesbian, straight, or whatever. But yeah, the Republicans' brains are not fully developed. Classy move, liberals. Classy move.
Because that's how those words are defined. So a woman who wants to run for president thinks the only reason anyone would ever vote for Donald Trump is because they're stupid.
We're about to turn 250 years old, right? We're still pretty young for a country. These are our like our angry teenage years, right? We are going through this push and pull where we're happy, we're sad, we want this, we want that. And what do you do when you have a teenager who's threatening themselves and others? You just try to get them through this period alive so that their brain can fully form and you can come back.
So yeah, let's talk about country like it's teenager. It's not about the population, it's about the country itself. The country is 250 years old, but it's still teenagers. Dude, what?
Back to kind of what a country, I think that this, I don't think there's a single American who feels like this is normal.
You got one right here. And I suppose people are used to that. Hillary Clinton called Trump voters a basket of deplorables. Joe Biden one-upped that, calling Trump voters garbage. None of it worked, of course. They've both been retired by Donald Trump.
Don't forget about Nazis.
I'm not so sure that saying that the brains of Trump voters haven't fully formed yet is the smartest move if you want those people to vote for you in 4 years when you run for president. Now, I wouldn't speak for you, but I feel like a lot of people voted for exactly what we've gotten over the last 52 days. I know that people don't like seeing the markets going up and down. That makes sense. But I also know that you don't vote for change and then get mad when things start to change, especially when the media frames everything Donald Trump does as bad. Headline.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like everything he does is bad. DEI, bad. Tariffs. Okay, tariffs, that's gonna hurt Americans short term, but I really believe that long term it's gonna improve the economy. Then you have what? You have Doge. Apparently that's bad to deal with the corruption in the government and handle the spending. But no, that's bad. What's this? Trade war with Canada. Okay, I don't really agree with that. But yeah, both countries just need to realize that they have their own resources and start using it rather than making profit. And I bet that's what Trump's trying to do. And I hope that Canada will realize that as well.
After headline from all the usual suspects, the Associated Press, NBC, the Washington Post,
NBC.
all misleading the public, calling what's happening right now a trade war. The Trump trade war. Trump just got us into a trade war. It's a trade war. Really? Is that really what's happening?
No, it's not.
Are we really in a trade war? Or is Donald Trump just trying to get a better deal for the American people? Are we in a trade war, or is Donald Trump trying to rectify what every American president could have done at any time over the last 50 years? Donald Trump is trying to stop other countries from ripping us off and taking advantage of us. You know why rich people are rich? They're smart with their money. Countries should operate the same way. Just because America is the richest country on the planet, just because we have a strong economy, shouldn't mean that other countries get to rip us off with impunity. That's not a trade war, that's common sense. I had Doug Ford on.
I mean, he's definitely right, because I used to live in Europe, right? I was born in Czech Republic. And everything that came from US was extremely pricey. And you're like thinking like in US, it's known that these things are very cheap. So why is the price so high? And back then it didn't click for me, right? It was just like, oh, US, good quality, expensive. But now, thinking about it, it's taxes, it's tariffs the European Union has against the US. Like that, you're pretty much just paying government, I don't know, 20% extra cost of the products coming from US. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I believe that the countries were ripping them off, and even if they were not, just look how much US is doing in Europe. How much is European Union depending on US? Like they definitely had to do something about it, and moving the production from, let's say, China and all of these countries back to US, it's a good thing. It creates more jobs. Hopefully the quality will be better, and the security of the country is going to be better, because out of nowhere you're not shipping all of these new technologies overseas where, let's be honest, like China definitely abused it and copied all of that stuff that the US gave them to produce, sorry, not produce, manufacture, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think Trump is doing good job at least 80% of the time. Like I'm not going to say 100% of the time, because sometimes I have different opinions, right? But like I still think he did such a great job with US since he got elected. And he did more than freaking Biden and Obama together. Let's go.
Last night, the premier of
Doug
Ontario,
Ford.
Canada. And I asked him if he could name one single item.
Okay, I don't understand how Doug Ford is still in power. Do you remember, well, obviously you remember COVID, right? If I'm correct, I might not be. Let me know if I'm wrong. Obviously you will. But I overheard that Doug Ford actually had a company for the stickers, you know, the 6 feet stickers, 6 feet/2 meters, which is ridiculous, because if you know measurements, 6 feet is not 2 meters. But like he had all of these like COVID stickers, so he made a lot of money off COVID, which to me is kind of conflict of interest. I don't know what he's still doing as a premier of Ontario, but yeah, obviously Canada kind of looks like they like corruption so far. Don't want to be mean, but looking at Trudeau and Doug Ford, well, if there only was a conservative candidate who can stop all of this, right? Someone like Pierre Poilievre. We're going to talk about him later.
Coming into Canada from America, where the Canadian people are getting ripped off, and this happened. Premier, could you tell me something that you're getting a bad deal?
We'll sit down and negotiate. I don't have my list right in front of me.
Just one thing. Just if you could be specific about one item, because I've got a list of 25 items right here that I could run through.
If you want to look at the auto sector, that 50% of all the cars that we're shipping down there, the parts, 50%, and we're shipping them down there, and we're buying more vehicles than Mexico. I don't think that's very fair trade. But either way, let's sit down and have a discussion.
So the premier of the biggest province in Canada couldn't name a single item, and when he did mention the auto imports, he was wrong. That's not a trade war.
No, like the big issue is that people are just getting emotional. They're trying to blame Trump because he's an easy target, right? But let's be honest, if the situation in Canada, the financial situation was good prior to these tariff threats and possibly tariffs general, right? No one would be this pissed off. Like your price would go a little bit up, but that's it. Like it wouldn't threaten your livelihood. What threatens our livelihood is just the situation in Canada in general prior to tariffs. So I don't know, like it's easy to make it look like, oh, big bad Trump, right? But that's not the issue in Canada. And like, yeah, is it fair towards Canadians from Trump to impose tariffs and not being very clear what he wants to achieve by that? I know he mentioned fentanyl, that he wants it to go down and all of it. But yeah, and another thing is, who knows what the meetings are between, back in the day, Justin Trudeau and President Trump, right? Like, it's behind the closed doors. We don't know what they're talking about. We don't really know. So to me, it's the issue is somewhere else than Trump.
That's not a war. It's common sense. It's America first, finally. Something the president finally addressed from the White House this week.
In Canada, we find that they're charging us over 200% for dairy products. You know about that. And when I left, we had that well taken care of. But under Biden, they just kept raising it. Very difficult to deal with. They make it impossible for us to sell lumber or dairy products into Canada. But our numbers are a tiny fraction of that, almost non-existent.
Canada...
Like, that's what's ridiculous for me. Obviously, these are all like the private companies, right? Not really under the government, but like, we're talking about US selling lumber to Canada. Canada has their own lumber. Then we're talking about Canada selling lumber to US. US has their own lumber. What are we talking about? Just keep it within the country. You're not gonna make profit. Yeah, it's all about money. You see, like, unless government gets included, it's gonna be all about money. So yeah, don't blame Trump.
Is currently charging the United States 270% on milk, 245%
that's crazy.
on cheese, 298%
if that's true, that's
on butter,
crazy.
238% on chicken, 25% on cars, 25% on steel, 45% on TVs. That's not a trade war. That's America getting ripped off by people who claim to be our friends.
But you know what? The other question is, just look into how much they charge the normal people as well. Like, is it in comparison to Canadians? Like, how much Canadians pay? Or is it like the manufacturing cost? Like, if it's 250% more than what Canadians pay, that's ridiculous. But yeah, to be fair, these things are not cheap over here. So if it's 200% more in the US, well, I don't know how you guys are handling it over there. And to be fair, one more thing. I don't know about the farmers, but just like the FDA in Canada, I think that's how it's called. Whoever controls the produce and makes all of the tests that the quality is good. Like, the quality is better in Canada. Like, we allow less shit in our food in comparison to US. So that would kind of justify it to be, let's say, 50 cents more expensive, but definitely not 2.5 times, almost 4 times more expensive. That's ridiculous.
Donald Trump is just the first president to actually care. And guess what? It looks like that caring is working. The national average for a gallon of gas today, $3.03 a gallon. Still high, but that's the lowest it's been in more than 3 years, March 2021. Egg prices are falling, 33% cheaper than they were just 3 weeks ago today.
Nice.
Even Business Insider was forced to admit today that Donald Trump's quote-unquote trade war might be causing mortgage rates to drop, a silver lining amid the Trump-induced market chaos.
That's true. In Canada, the mortgage rate dropped down because of the trade wars, which is great to hear, right? And yeah, like, to me, it still feels like it's made for the citizens of Canada and the US just to buy the locally produced stuff. Because then you're not going to face the tariffs, right? Well, to that, the government need to create some law or control that they don't spike the price on the products from Canada in Canada and US in US, right? Because you don't want the price to go up only because of the tariffs, even for the stuff that you have in your own country.
Lower mortgage rates. That's not a silver lining, Business Insider. That was part of the plan. And look at this from CNBC. Mortgage demand surges 11% higher as interest rates drop for a 6th straight week.
Surprise, surprise.
6 straight weeks. How long has Donald Trump been president?
Yep.
Oh, that's right. Almost 6 weeks to the day. But according to the legacy media, the sky is falling, and this is all unambiguously Donald Trump's fault. Until right around 7:30 this morning, when we found out that inflation, the same number that brought Joe and Kamala down, is finally coming down too.
Finally, we have some good news on the economy and really the number one issue for many Americans, the cost of living. So we just learned that consumer prices in February increased by 2.8% year over year, 0.2% month over month. Both of these figures were a step in the right direction, and both were better than expected. So this is definitely very encouraging to see, because it's going to, I think, relieve some fears that inflation was perhaps re-accelerating, because this actually breaks a streak of 4 straight months where I think you could see it on the chart all the way to the right, where the inflation rate was going in the wrong direction, right? It was going higher and higher. Finally, we're seeing it dip.
Okay, so you see the chart right there? Who was president 4 months ago?
Yeah, right.
I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with Joe Biden. Again, that's not a trade war. That doesn't sound like a trade war to me. It sounds like calculated policy pushed aggressively by a president who actually cares about how America's being treated by our friends and allies, which is how Democrats always describe our relationship with Mexico and Canada. Friends and allies. They love to say friends and allies. They certainly don't treat us like friends. Do I have a problem with Mexicans? No. Do I have a problem with Canadians? No. But I have a problem with Mexico and Canada hurting America. And when 15 million people cross the border illegally from Mexico, I've got a problem with that. When Canada...
Yeah, I don't know. The question is who negotiated all of these deals, right? I mean, we probably have him over there on the screen. And like friends and allies, like I still feel like US and Canada, like we should get along together. Like we're neighbors. We're have pretty good relationship, but yeah, the trade deals needs to be renegotiated for sure.
Rips off American consumers every day. I've got a problem with that too. Friends don't treat friends like that. That's how you treat somebody you hate. Have you ever loaned somebody money before? If you haven't, don't
Trump
do
trades
it.
wars.
But boy, they love you right around the time you're giving them that money. You ever tried to get that money back? That's what's happening right now between America and Canada and China and Mexico and many other countries. I also just realized that USAID has been completely gutted. Hundreds of programs have been cut, all Democrat programs, and I have yet to hear a single complaint from anyone outside of Washington, D.C. about any of the cuts. Don't you think that's a little strange? All of these countries were on the dole, all over the world, getting millions of dollars to fund all kinds of wacky programs, like $2 million for sex change operations in Guatemala, and $30 million to study trans people with AIDS in South Africa, $2 million for Moroccan pottery programs, $15 million for
This is ridiculous, man. Like, how is it gonna help US? And yeah, like 15 million condoms in Afghanistan, that kind of sounds like population control to me. But yeah, everything else is just ridiculous. Sex change operations in Guatemala. Like, does anyone even want a sex change operation in Guatemala? Study AIDS among trans people in South Africa. 30 millions on that. Like, I wonder how many trans people with AIDS are in South Africa. That's ridiculous. Just wasting money. And yet, Democrats will complain about it, about the Doge and all of it, right?
Condoms in Afghanistan. All of these programs existed 53 days ago. All of them have been cut. And I haven't heard a single word from anyone in Afghanistan or South Africa or Morocco complaining about something the American people now clearly support.
When we're talking about the cuts that Doge is bringing about, how are they feeling about it?
Yeah, this to me was one of the more shocking figures that I saw. Made me go,
Here we
wait
go.
a minute,
Here we
hold
go.
on one second. Whoa, Americans on Trump and Joe's efforts. Musk and Doge should influence government spending and operations. Look at this. 54%. The majority say that he and they should. How about approve of Trump trying to cut staff at government agencies? Again, you get a majority here, 51%. So yeah, Elon Musk might not be that popular, but these cuts and the idea of spending cuts, at least within the federal government and cutting at government agencies, that actually has majority support. I was truly surprised by this, Kate, but the numbers are the numbers.
54%.
Obviously it has support. Like, no one wants to send the taxpayers' money to condoms in Afghanistan or anything like that, right? Like, we saw the list, just ridiculous. Why should normal Americans pay money for that? Just keep it within the country, make the roads better, all of that stuff, right?
54% of people support what the White House is doing as it relates to Doge. 54% of people support getting rid of the waste. And Democrats seem completely unwilling to admit that all of this might actually be the right thing to do, and it might be working. I also think that no one is talking about this, but making all these cuts during tax season, which was calculated, is one of the smarter political moves we've ever seen. Because you and me, Americans all across the country, are paying our taxes right now. It's tax season. And while Americans are doling out thousands of dollars, millions of dollars in some cases to the government, they're hearing about everything that Democrats were spending your tax dollars on. And that makes people mad.
That's what I said.
The Washington Post writing that many Democrats are worried that their party is even weaker than it appeared after Trump's victory in November. And for now, Democrats hope that Trump and Republicans will make enough mistakes to offer them a way back. They want Donald Trump to fail, but it doesn't look like it's going to be that easy. And Bill Maher had a much different take.
It's so ridiculous. Like, if you want him to fail, that means you want the US to fail. You want the US citizens to deal with some issues just in order so they're going to vote for you. How is this American behavior? How is it good for America to hope that one administration will fail? It's, I don't know. That's ridiculous. And yeah, of course they hope for it, because they have so many skeletons in the closet, and guess what? They're getting out of the closet. And USAID, I bet that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, there's gonna be more stuff we're gonna find out about. Unless the people got the, how is it called? Damn, amnesty from Joe, right? 10-year span of amnesty for all the crimes that no one even knows they committed.
I don't know if we'll ever see a Democrat president again.
Look, I know that we think 2026, the midterms, is some far-off date and time, but it's right around the corner. 2 years is always right around the corner. 2026 is the midterms. 2028, we elect a brand new president. And Democrats are going to get the same result over and over again because they hate Donald Trump more than they love this country.
Yeah, like, just if you think about Kamala and Trump having all of these, having all of these discussions, like all Democrats, and in this case, Democrats representative Kamala Harris, said was just complaining about Trump. She didn't say how she's going to improve the situation in the country. All she said is like, oh, he's bad, vote for me. Like, what do you expect? Okay, give me 1 sec, guys. I'll just get rid of this little monkey. Anyway, so that was about liberals and Trump. Every time I hear about liberals, it's just getting more and more ridiculous. I would not believe that it's even possible, especially being from Europe, you know. Like, we have Democratic Party, and so Czech Republic used to be occupied by Russia, right? When I was born, it was still occupied. So then we put all our faith in the Democratic Party, right? We're gonna vote for democracy. So the values that I see in the US, like US Liberal Party and Canadian Liberal Party, in comparison to my home country, it's just ridiculous to see that. I don't know how's politics in my home country right now, but like, liberals just went too far. It went from democracy to let's do whatever we want. The craziest things you can think about.